Okay, so let's start. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone joining us here in Poland or virtually. My name is Daniela Di Gianantonio, and I am the team leader for digital agriculture at the FAO Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia. I am delighted to welcome you all to this side event on fostering the digital transformation of agriculture through strategies, national and local perspectives. Today, we will hear directly from some of the actors that are contributing to shape this transformation from a different level, from European to national to local. We aim at discovering how national digital strategies and locally driven bottom-up initiatives can serve as a bridge to close the rural and digital divide. Whether you're joining us online or here in Poland, we of course welcome your questions, which we will take at the end of the discussion. If you're joining us online on Zoom, please use the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And here with me, my colleague Valentin Nagy, Junior Technical Officer on Digitalization in Agriculture, will be reviewing the questions. Please also be informed that this event is live interpreted in several languages, so if you're joining us on Zoom, please pick the language you prefer. And now it's my pleasure and honor to give the floor to Mr. Laurent Thomas, Deputy Director General of FAO, for his opening remarks. Sir, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Mesdames et messieurs les ministres.
Dear ministers, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming along with us this morning, whether you're joining us here in Poland or virtually. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this parallel session and this round table. The world, and in particular Europe and Central Asia, are facing major challenges. Obviously, I'm talking about the war in Ukraine. The COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, ongoing problems like food security and malnutrition, and reaching the SDGs, all of these need to be dealt with. The shock and will have severe repercussions on the agri-food system. It's deepening the divide between rural and urban areas. To take effective action is going to mean dealing with some of the major issues at the regional and global level, and this is a hard task. In this regard, digital transformation and innovation are going to be key accelerators that are at the heart of FAO's work. They're part of the 4 strategies of the organization and contribute to the 4 betters that mobilize all of us. The FAO is determined to capitalize on their potential to improve the environment, the living environment, living conditions, nutrition, and food security. IT technologies can be one of the crucial accelerators when it comes to transforming our economies and societies, including agriculture and agri-food systems and rural development. It can also be a tool for eliminating the disparities between urban and rural areas and gender and age divides. It might also enable job creation and facilitate farmers, young people in accessing information, markets, and finance. However, the advantages that are being offered by these technologies are not being distributed equally. Digital transformation needs to not only offer these technical innovations, but also social innovations in ensuring adequate conditions for one and all. And in this context, inclusion and protection of human rights for one and all are vital to ensure a sustainable transition towards digital agriculture. To this end, FAO, in its strategic framework, is focusing on what they call the complements, in which we look at governance, institutions, and human capital, which can guarantee inclusion and protect human rights of one and all in parallel, and I would even say in synergy with the acceleration of digital transformation in agriculture. The FAO has set up a number of programs and initiatives to make this into a concrete reality here in Europe and Central Asia. This means that across its rooms, its regions, it's come up with strategies for the implementation of digital transformation. There are also assistance for rolling out the action plans, and these are based on tangible targets, both regionally and nationally. In the framework of the 1,000 digital villages, for example, this initiative, they are setting out community-led initiatives so as to make digital transformation in rural areas a reality. In 2019, the organization created the data platform based on the geographical and spatial data with the Hand-in-Hand initiative, which is a common good of a digital niche, which enables for the creation of interactive cartographies to try and address gaps in real time. This geospatial platform enables us to map the capacities in the agricultural sector and try to improve environmental, socioeconomic aspects of farmers' lives. It also enables the targeting of financial initiatives to improve impact. I'm delighted to share with you today the information that yesterday the FAO received the Prize of Excellence of the prestigious World Geospatial Forum 2022 at the ceremony that was held in Amsterdam. This prize recognizes the excellence of the geospatial Hand-in-Hand initiative platform and the results achieved with the cartographies that have been performed. So I should like you to all give a round of applause to our teams for this outstanding prize, which I do think attests to the quality of their work, of them and your FAO. The International Platform for Digital Agriculture and Food, set up by the FAO, is going to be a space for dialogue, for drafting policies, for strengthening the connections between those working in agriculture and the digital economy. It's also going to enable states to improve everything that they are doing in the digital sphere while addressing legitimate concerns. The FAO has also managed to bring together all stakeholders so as to undertake a constructive dialogue on the strategies to be undertaken to exploit the potential of these technologies in an inclusive and sustainable way. Today, we're here to listen to different stakeholders and discover the various different approaches and initiatives and tools that they are using when it comes to boosting the digital transformation of rural areas and agriculture. The agri-food system and rural development require collective action and consistent action. So without any further ado, enable me to offer you all of my best wishes for fruitful discussions. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director General, for your inspiring introduction, and let me extend my congratulations to the FAO colleagues that have worked on the Hand-in-Hand geospatial platform for the award they received yesterday. Congrats. So, Mr. Thomas, you mentioned the work done with digital agriculture strategies, the need to move from strategy to implementation, and the need to harness the opportunities brought by technologies to accelerate the digital transformation in rural areas. So, in today's session, we aim at discovering and discussing more in depth all these elements, and I am very excited to learn more from our panelists. So, let me introduce them. Welcome to Her Excellency Vanya Avram, Assistant Minister at the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Economic Relations of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Welcome to Dr. Doris Morkbart, Program Officer at the European Commission, Directorate General for Agriculture and Rural Development. And welcome to Ms. Claire Jordan, Managing Director at ADO, the European Association for Information on Local Development. And now, I would like to open this panel by posing a first question to Her Excellency Vanya Avram. As mentioned, the FAO Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia has assisted several members in the region in developing inclusive and sustainable national strategies for the digitalization of agriculture. Bosnia and Herzegovina is one of the countries that most recently embarked and completed a national strategy-making process with FAO. So could you please tell us more about this effort and how you plan to move from strategy to implementation? Your Excellency, floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning again from Ministry of Foreign Trade and Economic Relations of Bosnia and Herzegovina. First, I would like to thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure to participate in today's session and talk about digitalization in agriculture. As is well known, the FAO made a very important effort and carried out an analysis of the situation in the agricultural sector through the prism of digital transformation in this sector, creating a strategic framework for the development of digital agriculture. Digitalization of agriculture is a process aimed at a wide range of participants. Through many activities, a large number of participants were involved, especially from the public and private sectors identified as key ones. Ministries from the agricultural sector at the state and entity levels, agriculture and food agencies, advisory service farmers associations, IT companies, chambers and others, as well as the academic community and farmers. A number of workshops have gathered options and goals of major actors to be key players of digital transformation. The analysis established the position of Bosnia and Herzegovina in the process of digital transformation, which is considered to be at the very beginning of the process. Positive and negative factors have been identified through all phases of the analysis, which determine the priorities to be made in the coming period in terms of real progress in the process of digital transformation in agriculture. Thus, 5 priorities have been defined for the implementation of strategic goals of digital transformation. The first one is accelerating digital transformation in the public sector, then implementation of IT solutions in private sectors, human and institutional capacity development for digital agriculture, improving digital infrastructure in rural areas, and raising awareness of the benefits of implementing IT solutions in agriculture. These goals are certainly of a framework nature, and in the coming period, it is necessary to define harmonized action plans that will lead to the implementation and realization of the goals and strategic plans in the field of digital transformation. The precondition is certainly the adoption of a new strategic plan for rural developments that will include priorities, define measures and activities that will be implemented through a strong administrative and coordination structure that is able to ensure coherence of activities at all levels of authorities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The motivation for this process lies in the fact that it is necessary to enable two processes. The first one is the accession to the European Union, which requires, among other things, the establishment of information system, which definitely leads toward the direction of digital agriculture. The second process is the necessity of strengthening the competitiveness of agriculture that moves towards the digitalization of agriculture. And for the end of this answer, it is very important to keep in mind that management and administrative structure of Bosnia and Herzegovina in the agricultural sector, where responsibilities are mostly at entity and Brčko district levels, and partly at the cantonal levels in the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The document is available at these levels with the intention on harmonization policies and practices in this area throughout the country of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Thank you.
Many thanks to you, Your Excellency, for elaborating on the strategic goals you aim to achieve with the implementation of the strategy. I noted several important points. One, aligning your actions to the requirements to access the EU. Secondly, the importance of learning from more technically and technologically advanced countries. And then importance of ensuring that the strategy is mainstreamed, is adopted by the cantons, the districts, so that the strategy is really translated into action at local level. Thank you very much, Excellency. And now, let me turn to our second panel member, Dr. Doris Marquardt, Program Officer with the European Commission, DG Agri. So, Dr. Marquardt, we just learned of Bosnia and Herzegovina's strategic plans for the digitalization of agriculture. So, let me ask you, which instruments does the European Union provide in support of digitalization in rural areas and agriculture?
Thank you for the question and thank you for the invitation. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The European Union offers a portfolio of policy instruments in support of digitalization in rural areas and agriculture. This includes regional development funds, the Connecting Europe facility, or the Recovery and Resilience facility, the Digital Europe program, and noteworthy, the Common Agriculture Policy. All instruments have different focal points, for instance, fostering support to digital innovation, human capacities, or digital infrastructure. It is important that European and national instruments in support of digitalization are used in a strategic way. Some initiatives framing and supporting efforts to boost digitalization in agriculture and rural areas are carried out at European level. For instance, joint research and innovation, or the exchange of experience between stakeholders. Yet, the situation as it regards digitalization in rural areas and agriculture varies across member states. For instance, in some countries, connectivity in rural areas has to be strengthened. In others, digital skills, while in some countries, farms are technically very advanced and highly digitalized. It is important to take stock of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, to respond in a tailored way to national needs. With the Common Agriculture Policy starting post-2020, digitalization is an inherent part of the so-called cross-cutting objective of modernizing the sector by fostering knowledge, innovation, and digitalization in agriculture agriculture and rural areas. Why cross-cutting or horizontal objective? Supporting digitalization offers the opportunities to contribute to other CAP objectives, and support digitalization may not be seen in isolation. Digitalization is no end in itself. Digitalization can be regarded as enabler. For instance, the potential of digital technologies can help to increase sustainability performance and competitiveness of the agriculture sector and rural communities, and to increase the quality of life. And by means of digitalization strategies, an enabling environment for using the enabling potential of digitalization can be envisaged. With the Common Agriculture Policy post-2020, Member States are asked to elaborate digitalization strategies as part of the National CAP Strategic Plan. Those strategies allow to account for the national situation and to follow a comprehensive approach towards digitalization, considering, for instance, human capacities, digital technologies, and infrastructure, and the provision of data and noteworthy to mitigate digital divides. Fostering a strategic approach also allows using the toolkit of policy instruments in a synergetic and tailored way. A comprehensive approach towards digitalization may also include linking public and private efforts in the interests in digitalization. In the context of the Common Agriculture Policy, examples in this field include the reduction of administrative burdens for farmers and the administration alike, and the use of digital tools, or the provision of public data for the development of database solutions for farmers. Overall, it is important to reach a kind of trickle-down effect of systemic action at national level to the ground to ensure that the potential of digitalization can be used effectively by stakeholders such as farmers and their associations and rural communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marquard, for the interesting points. Thank you for sharing key information on the EU portfolio of policy instruments. I noted several additional insightful points here. Digitalization not to be seen in isolation, but be regarded as an enabler. The need to harness strategies to create an enabling environment. The need for a comprehensive approach linking public and private sector, and that member states are asked to elaborate digital agriculture strategies in the framework of the Common Agriculture Policy. But strategies that put emphasis on digitalization can also emerge from the bottom up, right, Ms. Jordan? So let me introduce you to Ms. Jordan. She is the Managing Director of ADO, the European Association for Information on Local Development, an organization that learns from and fosters community-led innovation to revitalize local communities across Europe. So let me ask you, based on ADO's experience, and in particularly the studies you carried out around the concept of smart villages in the EU, can you tell us more about how strategies for a digital-led rural development can emerge from the bottom up? And what do they need the most to succeed?
Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me today. To answer your question, smart villages, they can be understood simply as rural communities that refuse to wait for change to happen to them. So such communities, they are made up of rural people who take the initiative to mobilize themselves and to explore practical solutions to the day-to-day challenges that they face. So what they do is they build on their existing strengths and assets, and they try to seize new opportunities to improve their quality of life. And so there are thousands of such rural communities across Europe who are doing this in various ways, with initiatives covering a wide range of fields, such as innovation in rural services, renewable energy, urban-rural linkages, the bioeconomy, agricultural and food, environmental sustainability, etc. And these initiatives, they usually begin with local people coming together around a common problem or a common vision to implement some form of plan of actions in order to achieve a specific goal. And these initiatives, they can come from civil society organizations, from local authorities, or even private sector actors. And they tend to start small, okay? And they focus on key opportunities or problems that motivate local people. And the success of these bottom-up initiatives, they really involve having to build platforms and partnerships among the relevant stakeholders, as has already been said a little bit today. And particularly, it's very important to have the active involvement and the support of the appropriate local and regional authorities. Because while the initial idea for a smart village can start at the level of a small village or even a hamlet, the success often depends upon the cooperation with other nearby villages or towns and cities. And this is why national and regional policymakers and implementers really have to ensure that the right policy tools are made available in the right place at the right time for local communities to use in a way that is flexible, so that they can be adapted to different and evolving circumstances, allowing smart village strategies to start small and then to grow. And specifically when it comes to digital strategies for rural communities, studies have shown that even in countries with significant investments in broadband infrastructure, these can have a limited impact on rural communities if there isn't a coordinated governance at regional and local level. So again, what really helps drive the development of rural digital services is those partnerships, okay? They have to involve multiple stakeholders and a coordinated governance framework from local to regional or even national scale to link regional strategies with local initiatives. That will really help build the capacity of the rural stakeholders. I think maybe another aspect that we have seen in our experience when supporting these bottom-up initiatives is related to connectors, okay, to individuals or agencies that support the digital coordination of local actors, helping select the best technologies, promoting data sharing, promoting interoperability. Those intermediaries, in a way, those brokers, those shared spaces are very important to support the digital transition in rural areas. For example, we can talk about digital hubs, fab labs, co-working spaces, living labs, and other intermediate bodies that can help develop local capacity to innovate. With this kind of support, villages can create, they can contribute to new smart products, new smart services that are really designed to benefit the rural communities and their stakeholders. So to go a little bit deeper in this idea of having those co-creation spaces, I think what's important, what we have really realized is that while local people know what their needs are, they may not be aware of the best technological solutions available for meeting those needs. And the successful projects, from our experience, are often those that adopt a co-creation approach involving a range of service providers, rural organizations, and local residents. For example, we can have rural digital hubs, which tend to operate at the micro-local level. They can be located in village halls, community centers, or libraries. And they can really help rural villages build on the social capital that is inherent to the rural community in question. They can also be linked and supported by regional level initiatives. For example, there can be regional digital platforms that use co-creation methods to enable rural residents to use digital applications that can support their own social and economic development. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about living labs. This is something that we have experimented with a lot and we have studied a lot. So a living lab is usually a multi-actor approach that is used to tap into local insights and come up with practicable and sustainable innovation. The living labs, what do? They facilitate the development of prototypes, they facilitate innovation workshops, and they really help find joint relevant solutions. And they provide an environment where potential partners from the industry also can be involved and can explore their solutions quickly, having real end users involved. And that's very valuable. Just to give you one quick example, in Germany, near Lake Constance, a living lab is currently looking at how to improve the organic fruit production value chain by involving local and national organic agriculture associations, regional governmental agencies for agriculture, but also research associations, regional governmental agencies, I've already said that, the consulting agencies, environment and biodiversity institutes. So very multi-actor type of approach. And this project is interesting. It gives priority to improving the digital infrastructure and skills of family businesses in that particular rural area. And it promotes the cooperative use of digitalization services. So to conclude, if I was to maybe sum it up in 3 key recommendations to best support and nurture these bottom-up community-led initiatives, it would be 1, to really understand the local digital ecosystem and to focus support on the most promising areas. 2, to support the animation, facilitation, and brokerage during the project preparation activities to ensure a participatory process. And 3, to support the development of these enablers and multipliers that we talked about, such as living labs and various forms of digital hubs within villages and rural settlements. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Ms. Jordan. So many interesting experiences to learn from. So smart rural communities that take the initiative to mobilize themselves, driving the development of digital services, the need to understand the digital ecosystem, but also, for FAO, the need to have connectors, to have brokers that are able to support their digital transition. Thanks a lot for all these experiences, really. So, and now, before I turn back to Dr. Mark Vard for a follow-up question and a second round of questions to the panelists, let me remind the audience joining us online on Zoom to write their questions in the Q&A box that they see at the bottom of their screen. And we will take all the questions at the end of this second round. So, second question to you, Dr. Mark Vard. We just learned of locally driven bottom-up initiatives of smart villages. Let me ask you then, how does the European Commission foster bottom-up approaches and how they can contribute to accelerating the digital transformation of rural areas?
Thank you also for this question. There are various instruments supporting a bottom-up approach relevant in the context of the sustainable development of rural areas and the agriculture sector.
I think we have lost Dr. Mark Vard. Let's wait just a few seconds to see whether she comes back online. Otherwise,
To you.
I think we will need to give her a few minutes so she comes back online. So let me then ask a second question to Ms. Jordan. Let me go back to Adol. So, Ms. Jordan, you have just told us of smart villages, and it was mentioned in the opening remarks of Mr. Thomas that FAO has launched a global corporate program called Digital Village Initiative, whereby FAO has set the goal to transform 1,000 villages across the globe into digital village hubs. And the Regional Office of Europe and Central Asia is now setting the grounds for the implementation of the initiative for bringing it to the region, learning from the European experience. ADL is FAO's strategic partner in defining and establishing an approach that leverages the experience of the European smart villages for the implementation of the FAO Digital Village Initiative in Europe and Central Asia. So could you please tell us more about this?
Yes, with pleasure. Thank you. So this specific assignment that you are referring to, called capitalizing on the good practices and lessons learned from the European Smart Villages initiatives, aims at gaining practical knowledge with a view to better implement FAO Digital Village Initiative in Europe and Central Asia. And that's where we as ADL are trying to contribute. The work is still very much in progress, but we're working with FAO to develop a tailored approach for the transfer of knowledge, technology, and experiences from existing smart villages to potential digital villages in the focus countries. And this knowledge transfer approach is about connecting villages to learn from each other, to share their experiences and good practices on digitalization, focusing on agri-food systems and rural areas. And among other things, we're drawing inspiration, let's say, from existing approaches, such as, for example, town twinning. And for those who are not familiar with this concept, town twinning is a model of long-term cooperation between two towns or municipalities, usually based in two different countries, based on friendship, trust, and mutual enrichment. And for example, we think we could adapt this type of collaboration to facilitate the transfer of digital solutions or to test them in different contexts. But this knowledge transfer approach could also take the form of rural networking, for example, whereby we will establish formal and informal agreements between villages who decide to cooperate, to deliver physical virtual trainings, or simply to share information and ideas. So one of the first deliverables that has already been produced within this effort is a set of guidelines for the identification of potential digital villages. These guidelines come with a scoring system across various factors and give a picture for a particular village of its maturity level within the digital villages process. And in a way is also is there to help assess the preparedness level of a given village to engage in a digital village transformation process. So we hope these guidelines will be useful. And what I can say so far is that, in my opinion, FAO REU is really uniquely positioned to bring together lessons and best practices from different angles, building, of course, on what is being done in other FAO regions under the 1,000 Digital Villages Initiative, but also tapping into the good practices and experiences of these European smart villages. ADL is here, among other things, to help identify and mobilize existing smart villages in the EU, to design and implement knowledge transfer and or twinning type activities that will benefit the selected villages in the various target countries. And this year, we aim to pilot at least one round of such activities with the intention of learning from it and drawing recommendations for future scaling up. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jordan. We are really looking forward to moving to implementation soon, identifying candidate villages, and supporting the transferring of knowledge, good practices, and experience arising from European smart villages. So now I see Dr. Mark Vart back online. We were asking you, how does the European Commission foster bottom-up approaches? How can they contribute to accelerate the digital transformation of rural areas?
Yes, thank you again, and my apologies for any connectivity aspects. So there are several EU instruments supporting a bottom-up approach, relevant in the context of the sustainable development of rural areas and the agriculture sector. These include LEADER, Smart Villages we heard about, and the European Innovation Partnership for Agriculture Productivity and Sustainability, the so-called EIP. LEADER and the Smart Villages are to enable rural regions and rural villages, respectively, to use the development potential following a participatory approach. Under LEADER, a holistic cross-sectoral approach towards the development of the region is fostered. Smart Villages, as we learned in the previous presentation, develop innovative solutions to use their capacities in a smart way. Capacities may concern, for instance, social capital or natural resources, which are capitalized through innovative solutions. With the European Innovation Partnership, the EIP-AGRI, following a multi-actor approach involving practitioners and scientists, innovative approaches in support of sustainable agriculture production are developed. Nowadays, we know it, digitalization is an asset to use the full development potential in rural areas, as nearly all daily life and business actions are linked to digital technologies. Many smart villages initiatives, LEADER local action groups, and EIP operational groups use the enabling potential of digitalization. Some of them also foster innovation in the use of digital technologies. These bottom-up initiatives may also concentrate, as we learned it today already, on the other types of innovation, so in other fields of actions, depending on the point of departure of the region, of the village, and the objectives they foster. It is important that national digitalization strategies and bottom-up initiatives go hand in hand, and that local actors are empowered and have the capacities to fully exploit the enabling potential of digitalization and to further innovate in various domains. In the European Union and beyond, those bottom-up approaches are accompanied by support to networking or the exchange of experiences, which is organized at European level, for instance, through the European Network for Rural Development, the Smart Villages platform, or a network of national broadband competency offices. This allows stakeholders to get inspired by innovative solutions developed elsewhere and to get motivated to adapt them to the situation in their village or region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mark Vart. Let me put emphasis on a sentence that you mentioned, the importance that national digital agriculture strategies and local bottom-up initiatives go hand in hand. Very inspiring. Thank you very much. So we learned of EU bottom-up approaches, we learned of initiatives to foster rural development, including smart villages, introduced the FAO Digital Village Initiative, and the need to capitalize, to learn from the European experience and to transfer it to other villages so they can take active steps towards a digitally driven rural development. Thank you. So let me turn to you again, Your Excellency, Vanya Avram, and let me ask you how all of what we said resonates with Bosnia and Herzegovina's strategic plans for rural development.
Thank you for the question. The basic concept of a smart village is to combine the efforts of the community and a set of people of different knowledge and integrate them with information technology in order to provide benefits for the rural community. Although there are different criteria that give different indicators, the percentage of rural population in Bosnia and Herzegovina is over 50%, which ranks it among the top European countries in terms of the share of rural population and indicates the importance of rural areas. Given the complexity of the concept of smart and digital villages, there is a need for multi-sectoral approach that includes actions of different stakeholders, such as telecommunications, infrastructure investment, agriculture, education, technological development, etc. The current situation in this regard in Bosnia and Herzegovina is that sectoral policies independently treat certain aspects of the development of smart and digital villages, and the only systematic approach to this topic is currently in the strategy created within the FAO project. Given that this document deals with digital agriculture, it provides elements for the creation of digital villages. Following the priorities stated in this document and in terms of the developing smart and digital villages, a possible course of action is to establish 2 or 3 pilot smart villages that would serve as examples of good practice in Bosnia and Herzegovina and as a roadmap for other projects. Taking into account the heterogeneity of Bosnia and Herzegovina in terms of economic, infrastructural, agri-environmental, social, and other aspects, these pilot projects should be implemented in 3 zones: Mediterranean, mountain, and lowland areas. However, in addition to achieving a satisfactory level of general digital transformation, such ventures require financial resources to ensure the implementation of pilot projects, as well as a specific analysis of project feasibility for precise locations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for elaborating on your country rural development challenges and unique traits. Thank you for stating interest in piloting village transformation approaches, bottom-up approaches in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Dr. Mark Vart, Ms. Jordan, thank you very much for your insights, views, and perspectives. We are eager to leverage these experiences and good practices that emerged from the discussion to implement initiatives and tangible actions that are truly transformational for rural areas throughout Europe and Central Asia. And now it's time to open the floor to the audience for questions. I see already many questions in the Q&A box on Zoom. For the audience here present in Poland, please raise your hand if you wish to pose a question. And now let me ask my colleague Valentin whether he can read out loud a couple of interesting questions that came up from the Zoom Q&A box.
Yes, thank you, Daniela. As you mentioned, we have received a couple of questions online. However, due to the limited time we have, I'm afraid we will not be able to answer all of them. However, I would like to raise your attention to one asked by Kanat Sultanaliev from Kyrgyzstan. Can any village become a digital/smart village, or are there any preconditions for it?
Thank you, Valentin. So let me repeat the question coming from Kyrgyzstan. Can any village become a smart village or a digital village? Or are there any sort of preconditions to it? Who would like to take this question from the speakers?
I'm happy to give one answer. I don't know if it's the only answer, because it's an interesting question, actually. I mean, generally, I would say that there are three basic conditions for a village to become a successful digital village. It needs technological infrastructure, so the digital and the internet capacity. It needs human capital, as has been highlighted by my fellow panelists several times. So it's really important that the local stakeholders have the skills and the competencies to apply the new digital solutions. And I also think what's important is the economic gains aspect. For it to really be successful, the village needs to have the capacity to exploit economically the newly acquired access to broadband and technologies, with the value created remaining in the local communities. But perhaps another really more fundamental factor, even more than all these conditions for success, I would say that the precondition is the interest and the motivation of the local communities themselves, their desire to take matters into their own hands, to join together, to create, to not be afraid of trying and testing and sometimes failing. It's an iterative process, right? So a true bottom-up initiative can happen in many, many places, as long as people come together and decide to find a solution to a given problem that is very important to them and meaningful to them, and that they're given the space and the means to create, to test, to experiment, and eventually to succeed.
Thank you very much, Claire, for elaborating on these important aspects. Let me turn to Valentin for another question.
Yeah, thanks, Daniela. Thanks, Claire. Next question would be from Sophie Treinen. What are the investment plans that the EU and the other partners can propose to support digital transformation of agriculture in Eastern and Central Europe, as well as Central Asia?
Is this possibly a question to Dr. Mark Ward? So what are the investment plans that EU and possibly other partners can propose to support the digital transformation of agriculture in Eastern, Central Europe, and Central Asia?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think I would like not to point to the investment plans. I think as I referred to in the contribution I made today, even in the European Union, the investment approaches in the individual countries vary. So what is important from my personal perspective is that if developing an investment plan in a country at national level, to take stock of the opportunities and resources and the instruments which are out there, how they can contribute in the national context in a sustainable way to support digitalization, and how best synergies between the different national, international, and European Union instruments can be achieved. And then to develop a specific tailored approach how to best use the different instruments. So there will be instruments focusing more on digital infrastructure. There will be, let's say, instruments allowing to foster, as we learned today already, the importance of human capacities to build, for instance, digital skills, and then to blend maybe with agriculture and rural development specific actions. For instance, there might be granted let's say under the common agriculture policy, for instance, we have support for investments in farmers, for digital technologies, or for rural communities to have tailored interventions supplementing the, let's say, the national efforts and digital infrastructure. So I think there's not a one-off approach. The importance is to take stock of the opportunities and then to develop a plan suitable for the country, addressing the needs of a country and its synergies between the different instruments. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Dr. Mark Ward. I can see many other interesting questions really being asked in the Q&A box, and it's great to see so much interest. We will note down these questions and reach out to you bilaterally, and I can tell that probably we will need to organize a follow-up session very soon. where we elaborate on some of the key concepts that emerged here, right? Village twinning, this concept of knowledge transfer, bottom-up approaches, how we ensure we mainstream gender elements in the development of smart villages or digital villages. But time is running up, and it's time to conclude our panel. So it's now my pleasure to invite Mr. Vladimir Olegovich Rachmanin, FAO Assistant Director General and our regional representative for Europe and Central Asia, for his closing remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniela. It's really extremely important topic for us to deal with. Everybody is talking about digitalization now. There is a simple point why we need to do it. By 2050, we shall have 10 billion people, and we need to produce healthy food for all of them. And we need to use all tools in order to make our production efficient, environmentally friendly, and we need to deal with the crises which are hitting the world those days and which are depriving many people from the good food or food at all. So the challenges are high, efficiency should be raised. There are many instruments available, but digitalization is one of the most prominent ones, which will help us to put the good food on the table of the increasing population and not making any more damage to the planet. Second point which I want to make, I just came from last week in a digital agriculture conference in Baku, and we have a big participation from our region. But most important is that this conference once again confirmed how diverse we are. We have in our region, we have European Union, we have Central Asia with their experiences, we have the Balkans with their experiences, Turkey. Everybody is working on digitalization, very rich experiences. What is important is to provide a platform and to share the best practices. Yesterday, we also launched here the regional platform on green agriculture. And this is also a digital platform, which is providing us with many opportunities to see what is done by the others and to choose what is best for each and every country. FAO is working on digitalization, digital agriculture in various areas. Deputy Director General Thomas was talking about geospatial platform, which is a very exciting tool. We need to bring this tool to the countries so that the countries at the national level will be able to use it. When we talk about, and of course the initiative of digital villages, which we need to promote in our region and to see how best to promote it in the interests of the countries. Of course, there was a question about what village can be digital. To my mind, every village can be digital, but you need to have hardware, you need to have cell phones, you need to have software and be able to understand it. So it very much depends on the promotion by the national governments, very much depends in terms of hardware, because I studied EU experiences. And sometimes even in the developed countries of European Union, the question of broadband might make the spread and expansion of digitalization in rural areas a bit limited. But I know that EU colleagues are working on that. Also, the pandemic taught us how connected can we be and how we can use in a very practical ways the digital tools. Connection between suppliers and consumers became very direct. Quite often the markets were closed, so consumers were able to connect with suppliers immediately. So people are very creative, and we need to use this creativity and support this creativity in the time of digitalization around us. Yesterday, I have a lot of meetings here in Poland. Yesterday, I talked to my colleagues from Tajikistan, and they are telling me that they introduced in the mountain areas of Tajikistan the software which allows the farmers to provide efficient irrigation, just simply saying what is the humidity of the air, what is the situation with the soil. It's kind of a pilot project, but it's very important that it's already showed its efficiency. So these ways should be promoted more. Also, when we talk about digitalization, we need to keep in mind, since we're in Europe here, we need to keep in mind the European Union regulations on the use of IT and intellectual rights. That should all be harmonized, because otherwise that would be difficult to make it widespread and kind of universal. So many issues to look into, but what I can say that there is huge interest. We need to work together in order to make this digitalization happening and promoting digital agriculture and showing the efficiency of that. And of course, FAO stands ready to provide the platform for that and connect all our members and partners in the governments, private sector, civil society in an inclusive manner. Thank you very much. We have a lot of things to do, but we succeed definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assistant Director General, for your closing remarks. Thanks again to Her Excellency Avram. Thanks to Dr. Mark Wart. Thanks to Ms. Jordan. Thanks to our guest here in Poland and the audience that has joined us online. I wish you a very good rest of your day. Thank you.